Welcome to the Kill Count, where we tally up the victims in all our favorite horror movies. I'm James A. Janice, and today we're looking at The Shining, released in 1980. I don't know how else to begin this episode than by admitting that I'm a little intimidated to be doing it. The Shining is easily one of the biggest horror movies of all time. Although it had a mixed response when it first came out, even earning a couple of Razzie nominations for Worst Actress and Worst Director, The Shining was quickly reevaluated by critics and is frequently found at or near the top of lists of the greatest horror movies of all time. Shit, it's even preserved by the Library of Congress. Based on Stephen King's third novel, which was published in 1977, The Shining's big screen adaptation was co-written, produced, and directed by one of the most influential filmmakers who ever lived, Stanley Kubrick. Or Kubrick, I've heard it both ways. Kubrick's filmography is basically a parade of classics, with recognizable masterpieces nearly as acclaimed as they are diverse in genre.
To say he was a great craftsman is to seriously understate something.
His influence is everywhere in cinema and popular culture at large, so it's no surprise that his one and only horror movie is consistently considered one of the best, especially since it was based on a story by Stephen King, someone just as singular and acclaimed in his own art field. King famously disliked Kubrick's treatment of his story, and although his criticism has tempered in recent years, to be honest, I think the guy just likes everything nowadays, last I heard, he still preferred the 1997 ABC miniseries version, which he wrote the teleplay for Mick Garris to direct. I only mention that version to let you know I can't cover it, at least not anytime soon. Thing's 4.5 hours long, give me a break. But King is in the minority when it comes to his appraisal of this film. The Shining is one of the most frequent answers I hear when I ask people what their favorite horror movie is. And although some may find that answer cliche, I'm not surprised that so many people were affected by this beautiful, haunting, epic film. I'm gonna try to do my best to do the movie justice in this episode, but keep in mind that this is probably the most dissected and analyzed film to ever be on the Kill Count. I mean, there's a whole damn documentary called Room 237 that covers people's interpretations and theories about the movie, some of which link it to Native American genocide, others to the Holocaust, and one to a conspiracy theory that claims Stanley Kubrick helped fake the moon landing. I'll tell you what I can about The Shining, but we'll barely be scratching the surface. At the very least, I can tell you how many people die in it, so let's get to the kills. The movie begins with gliding shots filmed in Montana's Glacier National Park, while The Shining's main title theme plays. This foreboding hymn of synth sounds was composed by Wendy Carlos and Rachel Elkind, and the tune grows in creepiness as a single yellow car makes its way to the isolated Overlook Hotel in the Rocky Mountains. Now, while King was inspired to write The Shining during an off-season stay at the Stanley Hotel in Colorado, these wide exterior shots depict the Timberline Lodge in Oregon. However, close-ups of the hotel's exterior shown later were all done on a set built in the UK. So in real life, there isn't just one hotel that you can call the Shining Hotel, especially since the insides were all custom-built sets based on various hotel interiors from around the world. Jack Torrance, played by Jack Nicholson, in possibly his most famous role, despite having a career chock full of them, meets with hotel manager Stuart Ullman ahead of his new job to be the Overlook's winter caretaker during the off-season. This weirdo Bill Watson is there too, but he doesn't really say or do anything. Maybe he dreamed of meeting Jack and found him to have that look you very rarely find, the haunted kind. Jack, a teacher and aspiring writer, assures Ullman he'll have no problem being isolated in the hotel over the coming winter months.
Well, that just happens to be exactly what I'm looking for.
Plenty of time to get some writing done. Really go crazy with it, you know? He's not even deterred when he finds out that the last dude who had the job, a guy named Grady, had a bit of a mental breakdown and took it out on his wife and 2 daughters.
He ran amok and, killed his family with an axe.
That sordid history doesn't bode well for Jack's family, who's gonna be staying at the hotel with him during the winter. His wife, Wendy, played by Shelley Duvall, tries to get their son Danny excited about it, but he's pretty trepidatious because Tony doesn't want to go. Oh, who's Tony? He's Danny's little friend who lives in his mouth.
I don't want to go there, Mrs. Torrance.
Well, how come you don't want to go?
I just Don't.
He just doesn't want to, Wendy. God! Tony shows Danny why he doesn't want to go in a series of psychic images that include a river of blood coming out of the hotel's elevator and some creepy-ass little girls. Spooky! After Danny's little scare in the bathroom, he's seen by an unnamed doctor who's given a heaping dose of backstory courtesy of Wendy. Wendy mentions that some time ago, her husband Jack came home drunk and accidentally dislocated Danny's shoulder by pulling him away from a mess too hard.
It's just the sort of thing you do 100 times with a child, you know, in the park or in the streets. But on this particular occasion, my husband just used too much strength and he injured Danny's arm.
The doctor seems rightfully concerned about the potential abuse, but Wendy says there was a silver lining. It got Jack to stop drinking.
Yeah, he hasn't had any alcohol in 5 months.
The Torrance family makes the long drive to the Overlook Hotel on its last day of the season, where Stuart Ullman and Bill Watson are there to give them a tour of the facilities. As soon as Jack's done with that playgirl anyway, the tour takes the Torrances and the viewer all over the hotel in long, unbroken shots. And a close examination of the layout reveals that some of it just doesn't make sense. The best example I can show you is that this window in Stuart Ullman's office shouldn't logically be there. If you follow Jack as he walks towards it, you can see there's actually a hallway back there. But once Jack gets into the office, there's a window on that wall looking outside. The illogical layout of the Overlook is the subject of countless theories, and if you're interested, you can watch a video about it made by Rob Ager of Collative Learning. It's pretty interesting, and the prevailing theory as to why the hotel's floor plan doesn't make sense is because it adds to the nightmarish and surreal quality of the setting. You'll find that people are pretty reluctant to say that any apparent mistakes in a Kubrick movie are unintentional. He was that particular of a filmmaker. Jack and Wendy are shown their apartment within the hotel, which has 2 rooms, a kitchen area, and a bathroom.
Well, it's very, homey.
They're also shown the giant hedge maze outside, as well as the snowcat they'll have to use when the white stuff covers the grounds. Inside the Overlook's game room, Danny plays darts for a bit before meeting some potential new friends. Oh, that's so nice for you, Danny. Now you'll have other kids to play with. Oh, nope, never mind. They're walking away. Damn, that's gonna kill this kid's self-esteem. The tour continues in the ballroom, where Ullman mentions that the bar is emptied of all alcohol for the off-season. Jack says that's just fine, though.
We don't drink.
The Torrances are introduced to the hotel's head chef, Dick Hallorann, played by Scatman Crothers, and he takes Wendy and Danny on a tour of their enormous kitchen. After showing them the walk-in freezer full of meat and the pantry full of dry goods, Hallorann offers Danny a psychic icy treat.
How'd you like some ice cream, Doc?
Hell yeah, Doc wants some ice cream, that's what's up. Over a couple of bowls of ice cream treats, Hallorann tells Danny how he was able to talk to him brain to brain, something he and his grandma used to do all the time.
She called it shining.
Dick says that the story's titular psychic power is shared by all sorts of people, even though some don't acknowledge or recognize it. Danny says his mouthmate Tony told him that the Overlook is super scary, and Dick admits that it does have some bad juju thanks to its past, which has left a sort of lingering presence here.
You know, Doc, when something happens, it can leave a trace of itself behind. Say, like, if someone burns toast.
Now, you may have heard of Stanley Kubrick's tendency to get a ridiculous number of takes from his actors.
I always said, you know, when you work for Stanley, it removes the main problem for the actor, which is pressure. You know, he's not going to stop until it's exactly the way he wants it, right, wrong, or indifferent. It is going to be right.
We're talking dozens and dozens of takes, even if they did everything perfectly within the first few tries.
He's going to do 60, 70 tries. To see what happens, even if take 5 is a terrific one.
The reason I bring this up now is because this ice cream scene had one shot, I'm not sure which one, that Kubrick did either 88 or 148 takes of. Accounts differ on the number. Scatman Crothers, who was more of a musician than a trained actor, couldn't handle it, although apparently 6-year-old Danny Lloyd was just fine.
Scatman said, "Stanley, I can't do it anymore." Danny was there. So as a result, we didn't feel like we were torturing him. and therefore we could do it and not feel like we were abusing a minor.
Before their conversation ends, Danny asks Hallorann what's in room 237, something Tony told him about. After a quick little fright chart, Hallorann tells Danny there ain't nothing in that room, but stay the fuck away from it anyway. A month later, the Overlook Hotel is a lonely place indeed, but at least Danny's making good use of all the empty space, riding his big wheel around in iconic close-to-the-ground Steadicam shots. The Shining was only the 7th movie to use the new Steadicam stabilizing tool, which allows a camera operator to get smooth shots without the usual shakiness of a handheld camera. For The Shining, the Steadicam was operated by Garrett Brown, the dude who invented it, and his long fluid tracking shots are part of this film's memorable iconography. This scene also has some awesome sound design as Danny rides over rugs and hardwood floor. Unlike Danny, Jack's not making the most of his time here. His typewriter has been left unattended as he tosses a tennis ball around the hotel. When he grows bored playing wall ball, he takes a gander at a model of the hedge maze that Wendy and Danny are currently running around in. The maze was an impressive feat for production to build and was so big that the cast and crew wound up getting lost for real in it.
We could never find out where we were. We were always lost. We always had to shout and have somebody work their way in with a diagram and get us the hell out of there.
In fact, Stanley challenged, it was too easy, and he actually got lost in it. We challenged him, we put him in there one Saturday morning, and he couldn't find his way out.
Also impressive is this overhead shot of the maze model that shows Wendy and Danny walking around in the center. This was the only shot that wasn't accomplished in camera. To achieve it, they built the center of the maze near a tall apartment building, then shot down from the roof as Shelley Duvall and Danny Lloyd walked around in it. They then matted that shot perfectly into an overhead shot of the model. The end result shows just how big the Overlook's hedge maze is. You definitely wouldn't want to get lost in there on a cold winter night. Tuesday card! Not sure how many days or weeks have gone by, but at least Jack seems to have finally found a bit of writing momentum. Good for him. Not so good for Wendy, who stops by for some chit-chat, only to find an angry shit Jack who yells at her for distracting him. Jeez, this is what he's like sober? She agrees to leave him alone, but he doesn't let her go without one last verbal kick to the ass.
Why don't you start right now and get the fuck out of here?
Okay, that's alright, Wendy. You should probably go hang out with Danny anyway, because he's getting so lonely riding his trike around that he's considering hitting up room 237 and making a play date with the Grady Ghost Gals. 2 days later, a big ol' snowstorm has finally brought winter's wrath to the Overlook, and something tells me Jack is not too excited to go shovel the sidewalks out there. But damn can that dude wear a turtleneck. As the days go by, the storm gets so bad that the hotel's phone lines go down, leaving a radio as the only connection to the outside world. But that's kind of fun, because when you use it, you get to say over a bunch of times. Over.
Boy, this storm is really something, isn't it? Over.
Over and out. Danny's triking through the hallway finally gets him in trouble when he rounds a corner to find the ghosts of Grady's slaughtered daughters waiting for him at the end of it.
Come play with us, Danny.
Sure, yeah, play what? Oh.
Forever and ever and ever.
I don't think my mom will let me play Bloody Axe Lie Around for that long. Sorry. Things are getting weird in a hurry at this hotel, although Jack says he's a big fan of the place.
I wish we could stay here forever, ever, ever.
Danny finally breaks his promise to Hallorann and walks into room 237, all while his dad takes a snooze at his writing desk. Aw, is he dreaming about being a dog? How cute!
I dreamed that I killed you and Danny.
Oh, no, it was about murdering his family. Danny returns to his parents sporting a new bruise on his neck, and Wendy immediately accuses Jack of being responsible for it. Why would she jump to a conclusion like that?
I dreamed that I killed you and Danny.
Oh, yeah, that.
My husband just used too much strength and he injured Danny's arm.
And also the shoulder thing. Never mind. She runs away from Jack, and since he feels wrongly accused, he takes his frustrations out by doing some freestyle dancing in the hallway. Hey man, why don't you pull up a chair to this empty bar and take a load off those crazy feet?
My goddamn soul. Just a glass of beer.
Sell your soul for a beer, you say? Well, I've got good news for you, Jack. This here is Lloyd, and souls are legal tender for his tabs. Jack gets a bourbon on the rocks and tosses away his 5-month chip in one gulp. It gets him feeling real loosey-goosey, to the point where he's calling Wendy a sperm bank and a bitch, and complaining about how she won't forgive him for hurting Danny that one time. That's when Wendy finds him, sitting at the bar all alone, and she tells him that Danny's neck bruise came from a woman in a room upstairs.
Which room was it?
Dog, you know what fucking room it was. Although, fun fact, in the book, the room number was 217, the same room King stayed in at the Stanley Hotel when he was inspired to write The Shining. The Timberline Lodge, the Oregon hotel used for the wide exterior shots, requested the room number be changed, since they actually had a room 217, but not a 237. Inside room 237, Jack finds a woman sitting in the tub, and she naked. I am Jack's slowly blooming excitement. But don't get too cocky, Mr. Torrance, because things aren't always as they appear to be. For instance, this young necky woman is actually an old necky woman, which wouldn't necessarily be so bad if not for all that rotting skin back there. Oh, and that laugh. Yeah, don't come at me with that laugh, lady. Meanwhile, from his fly-ass home in Miami, Dick Hallorann has a premonition that leaves him with a terrified look on his face. This wordless zoom-in on Dick being scared was another one that Kubrick shot an unholy amount of times. 60 is the number I've heard. It resulted in Scatman actually crying, poor dude. His in-movie terror doesn't come from an obsessive director, though. It's more the result of some kind of psychic connection with Danny, the spittling boy wonder there, who that night lies in bed and sees images of red rum written on a door. Well, that's not so scary. Oh, and the elevator full of blood again. That'll spook ya! Jack returns to their apartment and tells Wendy he didn't see anything in room 237. Haha, Jack, don't be ashamed of your interest in gilfs. Wendy says it might be a good idea for them to leave the hotel and head back home. But boy, oh boy, does Jack not like the sound of that, and he berates her for even suggesting it.
I have let you fuck up my life so far, but I am not gonna let you fuck this up.
He leaves in a huff and feels sorry for himself in the kitchen before rounding the corner to find that the hotel's throwing a full-on pity party for him. It's a swanky soiree in the ballroom where Lloyd the bartender says the drinks are on the house.
Your money's no good here.
Well, some of them are on the house, and some of them are on Jack. Oh no, better ask Jeeves there how to get liqueur out of corduroy. The waiter takes Jack into the bathroom to clean him up nice and proper, and it's there that Jack learns this dude is Delbert Grady, the former caretaker of the Overlook. What was that guy's deal again?
You, chopped your wife and daughter up into little bits.
Oh, that's right, he was the axe guy. But Grady denies the charge and tells Jack that he's the hotel's caretaker.
You've always been the caretaker. I should know, sir. I've always been here.
Whoa, that's some heady shit there, Delbert. Grady tells Jack that Danny is trying to bring Dick Hallorann to the Overlook, although he definitely does not refer to Dick by his name. And he says that Jack had better make sure Danny stops misbehaving. He can't go running through the hotel with a pickle in his mouth, you know? Grady's daughters tried to pull that shit once, and you know what Grady did about it?
I corrected them, sir. And when my wife tried to prevent me from doing my duty, I corrected her.
Oh damn, Mr. Torrance is breaking out his red pen, cause it's correcting time. First thing that needs correcting, the hotel's radio. I give you an F, radio, for fucked. Back in their apartment unit, Wendy is planning her and Danny's escape when she hears her son screaming from his room in a bizarre voice.
Red Rob! Red Rob!
I've always found that little fucker immensely scary while he's screaming like that, and while he's kicking his Tony thing into overdrive.
Danny's gone away, Mrs. Torrance.
These people need the D ASAP, but with the Overlook's phone and radio down, Dick's got no choice than to take a plane to Denver and rent himself a snowcat to prowl on over to the hotel. Wendy takes a baseball bat to go see if her husband is still acting all a fool. Well, he's nowhere to be found, but now you can finally read the masterpiece he's been typing away at. Let's see what it's about. Seems a little too existential for my liking. Oh man, and can you say repetitive? Hire an editor, dude. Jack finds Wendy peeping at his work, but he's not exactly in the mood for any constructive criticism. He is in the mood, however, to discuss the way they're raising their child.
I think you have some very definite ideas about what should be done with Danny, and I'd like to know what they are.
She tells him they need to take Danny to a doctor, but Jack just mocks her and yells at her again for interfering with his very important caretaking job. He grows more and more unhinged as he stalks her up the stairs in another scene that was shot a ridiculous number of times. I read that Kubrick did 127 takes of it. It was just one part of filming The Shining that left Shelley Duvall a total wreck. Kubrick was a consummate filmmaker, and from my research, seemed like a super cool dude to 6-year-old Danny Lloyd during production. But his relationship with Shelley Duvall was borderline abusive. In order to get a frantic, hysterical performance out of her, he pushed her to her emotional limits by being mean to her on set and having crew members similarly give her the cold shoulder.
Look at this. Pulled all my hair. I pulled hunks of hair out on the windowsill. And the back got caught.
Need you trim that.
Hunks of hair.
Oh, look.
Okay. Well, I don't sympathize with Shelley.
You don't sympathize with Shelley. Why not?
It doesn't help you, wouldn't it?
Yes, it does. It does.
A lot of candid moments between them were captured on camera by Kubrick's daughter Vivian, who filmed a short behind-the-scenes documentary on set of production.
Oh, come on. What do you mean roll
2
video?
seconds.
We're fucking killing ourselves out here, and you've got to be ready.
I am too. I'm standing
Should we
right
play
by
mood
the
music?
door. No, I can't
Yeah, but when you
hear.
came in like this, you said just
We're sitting there because they say, wait a minute, and then you say on the radio,
but when you
go.
do it, you've got to look desperate, Shelley. You're just wasting everybody's time there.
I can't even get
Well,
this
bring it
door
down.
open.
Since production took the better part of a year, the long months of stress ended up affecting Duvall's health.
From May until October, I was really in and out of ill health.
Now, I'm never in favor of abusing actors for the sake of a performance, but obviously it's worth hearing Shelley Duvall's own words on the matter.
If it hadn't been for that, volley of ideas and sometimes butting of heads together, it wouldn't have come out as good as it did. So I resented Stanley at times because he pushed me, and it hurt. I thought, why do you want to do this to me? How can you do this to me? We had the same end in mind. It was just that sometimes we differed in our means. And by the end, the means met. And I find I really respect him and really like him, both as a person and as a director. I mean, I'm amazed.
Also, for the record, I think Duvall's performance is perfect. It really sells how terrifying the hotel and her husband are. Jack yells at Wendy to give him the bat and promises not to hurt her with it.
I'm not gonna hurt you. I'm just gonna bash your brains in.
Oh, he'll bash her brains in painlessly, I guess. A Grand Slam slugger, Wendy is not, but she still manages to land a blow to Jack's head that knocks him down the stairs. She drags his sorry ass through the kitchen and into the pantry, which she locks him inside of before arming herself with a knife. When she tells him she's gonna take Danny on the snowcat back to civilization, he tells her she's got another thing coming. Cause turns out, this crazy son of a bitch went ahead and corrected the snowcat too. Aw, poor kitty. Later on that day, Jack awakens from a sack nap next to a snack stack to the voice of Delbert Grady on the other side of the door. Grady tells Jack he's gotta get his ass into gear and correct his meddling family. And when Jack promises he will, he's rewarded with the sound of the door unlocking. Whereas Stephen King's novel is unquestioningly supernatural, Kubrick's movie, for the most part, is a little more ambiguous. A lot of the stuff that happens could be explained away as a result of Jack's psyche breaking down. But a ghost unlocking the door is one of the strongest pieces of evidence towards this all happening for realsies. As Dick crawls his way towards the hotel, Danny grows more and more creepy, grabbing a knife like a little Mikey Myers and writing red rum on the door in lipstick. And check out what red rum actually means, Wendy. It's murder, just kind of backwards and with a corn R. Neat, huh? Jack begins axing his way into the apartment, which causes Wendy and Danny to flee into the bathroom. Although Danny is able to get out of the small window and have a fun time sliding down the snowbank, Wendy just can't squeeze her way out. And so she's in the bathroom for the movie's most enduring and iconic scene, which took 3 entire days to shoot. That had to be helly on Shelley Duvall, since her character's a shrieking mess the whole time. But there's no one watching this video who hasn't seen a parody of this scene in one form or another, even if it's just a riff on Jack's Ed McMahon quote that was actually improvised by Nicholson on set.
Here's Johnny!
Wendy slashes Jack's hand before they're dead deadly game is paused due to them hearing Dick Snowcat arrive outside. Uh-oh, Jack, better get out there and do some more correcting. Dick Hallorann, who has traveled so far and so urgently, wanders through the empty hotel, calling out an offer of help.
Hello? Anybody here?
Son of a bitch, the Scat Man is down, folks. I repeat, the Scat Man is down. Which is a movie invention, by the way. Dick Hallorann survives in the book. He's also alive at the beginning of the Dr. Sleep book, so I'm curious to see what they do with that in the Dr. Sleep movie. Jack finds Danny hiding and chases him around as Wendy runs through the hotel, finally seeing spookish stuff for herself, including something she's not supposed to be seeing. Hey, no chicks allowed, lady. Only guys and, bear guys. Go hang out with that dead dick over there. Or with this bleedy head ghost guy.
Great party, isn't it?
I guess if you're a big fan of cobwebs and skeletons, then sure, it's super cool. Wendy's last experience of the Ghost Hotel's greatest hits is another shot of the blood-spilling elevators, which is just fine by me. Those shots never get any less awesome. Jack chases Danny outside into the nasty winter weather, then follows the young boy into the snowy hedge maze, which, as we all know by now, is a huge, scary labyrinth. But D-Manny Tortor is a bright young whippersnapper and figures out that he might stand a chance of getting out of here alive if he can cover up his footprints in the snow. When Jack reaches the end of the tracks, he gets confused and stumbles away, giving Danny the chance to double back and head towards the exit. Danny's clever plan works and he escapes the maze as Jack gets more and more turned around. Danny reaches his mom and she takes him to Dick Snowcat, which thankfully has yet to be corrected by Jack. No offense, Jack, you're just not that great a mechanic, dude. He hears the vehicle as it starts up and drives away and screams futilely into the air as his family escapes the Overlook Hotel. Jack collapses against the snow and is seen the next day dead in the maze, having frozen into a scary little Jaxicle. The movie ends with a photo from a party hanging up on the Overlook's wall. The dude at the front and center of the group is Mr. Jack Torrance himself, even though the photo is dated 1921. I guess Grady was right. Jack's always been the caretaker here. How many people can a haunted hotel kill using one relapsed alcoholic with an axe? Let's find out and get to the numbers. Wendy, I'm not gonna hurt you. I'm just gonna count the numbers. Only 2 people died in The Shining, at least in the events we bore witness to. Those 2 victims were both male, meaning Dick cooked us up a blueberry pie. And with a runtime of 144 minutes, that left us with a kill on average every 72 minutes. I'll give the golden chainsaw for coolest kill to Dick Hallorann, because it's got that great jump scare, and it's a dude getting killed with an axe. No dull machete for this one though, because even though Jack's death face is a little bit silly, it's still a nice finish to the movie. And that's it. The Shining came out in 1980, and its sequel, Dr. Sleep, hits theaters in just a few weeks on November 8th. It's based on the 2013 novel by Stephen King and directed by Mike Flanagan, the dude who brought us Hush and The Haunting of Hill House. I could not be more excited for it. Until next time, I'm James A. Janice. This has been The Kill Count. Thanks a lot for watching this extra Kill Count. I want to thank some patrons like Matthew Baradell, Evan Boroff, John Doe, Operator Falsky, Thomas Hadel, and Christopher Nichols. It's still October, which means you can still pre-order the Dead Meat Collector's Edition of In Search of Darkness, the 80s horror documentary. Info's in the description below. How do you feel about The Shining? Is it one of your favorites, or do you think it's overrated? Thanks everyone, be good people.